In a quiet village, a helpless horse spent its entire life in chains, forgotten and neglected. No one believed it could ever be free, until one man decided to change its fate. What happened next left everyone in awe. Watch till the end to witness an incredible transformation. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories. Amidst the golden fields and winding dirt paths of a quiet countryside, a lone traveler named Adam wandered through an unfamiliar village. He was a man of simple means, but his heart carried a wealth of compassion. He had journeyed across many lands, helping those in need, both human and animal alike. But nothing could have prepared him for what he was about to witness. As Adam walked along the narrow pathways of the village, he noticed something unusual near an old, decaying barn. A frail, lifeless figure stood tethered to a wooden post, its body barely moving. Drawn by curiosity and concern, he stepped closer, his eyes widening in shock. It was a horse, one that had clearly endured years of suffering. Its coat, once a vibrant shade, was now dull and patchy, covered in dirt and scars. Its ribs protruded from its thin body, a heartbreaking sign of malnourishment. The horse's eyes, once meant to hold the wild spirit of its kind, were empty, lost in a world of silent suffering. The heavy chains that bound the animal had long since rusted, cutting deep into its skin, leaving behind painful marks. Flies buzzed around its wounds, yet the horse barely flinched. It had become too weak to fight them off. Adam's heart clenched at the sight. How long had this creature been standing here, forgotten by the world? How had no one stepped forward to help? He turned to a nearby villager, an elderly man who sat on his porch watching the scene unfold. "How long has this horse been chained like this?" Adam asked, his voice filled with disbelief. The old man sighed and shook his head. "As long as I can remember. It was born here and its owner never let it roam free. He feared it would run away or become wild. So, he kept it chained, always keeping it under control." Adam's fists clenched. This wasn't just neglect, it was a life stolen before it ever had the chance to begin. He couldn't walk away, not this time. He had rescued animals before, but something about this horse, about its silent endurance, moved him in a way he couldn't explain. Stepping closer, he gently reached out his hand. The horse didn't react, its spirit so broken that it no longer feared or trusted humans. Adam knew he had to do something. He couldn't leave this helpless creature to waste away in chains. But what could he do? Determined to find a way, Adam took a deep breath, his mind racing with a plan. This horse deserved freedom, and he was ready to fight for it. Little did he know his decision would lead to an extraordinary transformation, one that would leave the entire village in awe. Adam stood in front of the frail horse, his heart heavy with sorrow. He couldn't understand how anyone could let such a beautiful creature suffer in silence for so long. He turned toward the small house nearby, where an old wooden door creaked open, revealing a rugged-looking man, clearly the horse's owner. The man had weathered skin and a tired expression, as if life had drained him just as much as it had the poor animal. Adam took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Is this your horse?" he asked, his voice steady but filled with emotion. The man nodded, squinting at Adam suspiciously. "Yeah, what of it?" he grumbled. Adam glanced back at the horse, its body weak and trembling. "Why is it chained like this? It's barely surviving." The owner sighed and crossed his arms. "This horse has been like this since it was born. It's useless. Too weak to work, too wild to ride. If I let it go, it'll die out there." Adam clenched his fists, struggling to contain his anger. "It's already dying," he said firmly. "But not because of the wild, because of these chains." The man scoffed. "Look, stranger, I don't have time for a lecture. I feed it enough to survive. If you care so much, why don't you buy it?" He smirked, thinking that no one in their right mind would waste money on a useless, broken animal. Adam saw his chance. "Fine, name your price." The owner raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised. He scratched his beard and thought for a moment. 50 silver coins. Adam's stomach tightened. That was far more than the horse was worth, more than he could afford. He reached into his bag, counting the coins he had left. 30. Not enough. He needed to negotiate. How about 30? Adam countered. The man let out a dry laugh. No deal. Either pay up or move along. Adam looked back at the horse, its dull eyes reflecting years of suffering. He knew he couldn't walk away. His hands tightened around his coin pouch. I have 30 now. I'll give you an extra 20 if you let me work for it. The owner's eyes narrowed. Work? I can fix your barn, repair your fences, whatever you need, Adam offered. Just let me have the horse. The man thought for a moment, then shrugged. Fine, you work for 3 days, and the horse is yours. Adam agreed without hesitation. The next 3 days were grueling. He mended broken fences, carried heavy sacks of grain, and even patched up the leaky roof of the man's small barn. His muscles ached, but every time he looked at the chained horse, he reminded himself why he was doing this. Finally, after 3 long days, the owner handed him the rope. She's yours now. Don't say I didn't warn you, he muttered before walking away. Adam turned to the horse and gently touched its muzzle. You're free now, he whispered. Let's go. But the horse didn't move. It stood still, as if it didn't understand what was happening. Adam frowned and tugged the rope lightly, encouraging it forward, but the animal remained frozen in place. Years of captivity had robbed it of the very instinct to move. Adam's heart sank. He had expected the horse to run, to rejoice, but instead, it stood there, lost. The realization hit him hard. This horse didn't know how to be free. Determined, Adam loosened the ropes further and gently coaxed the horse. Come on, girl. 1 step at a time. The horse hesitated, then shakily lifted a hoof. The movement was weak, unsteady, as if even the act of walking had become a foreign concept. The first step was followed by another, and another, but with each one, the horse staggered, nearly collapsing from exhaustion. Adam immediately supported it, stroking its neck reassuringly. Easy. I've got you. The journey home was slow. Adam walked beside the horse, guiding it carefully. It took breaks every few minutes, its legs trembling from years of neglect. But Adam never rushed it. He knew healing would take time. When they finally reached his small camp by the river, he untied the last rope and let the horse stand freely for the first time. It didn't run. It didn't move much at all, but for the first time in its life, it wasn't bound by chains. As Adam sat by the fire that night, watching the horse rest, he made a silent promise. I will teach you how to be free again. What neither of them knew was that this was just the beginning of an extraordinary journey, one that would inspire everyone who witnessed it. As the sun rose over the quiet valley, Adam stood outside his small shelter, watching the horse as it lay on a patch of soft grass. He had named her Noor, meaning light, because he believed that even in the darkest moments, there was always a chance for hope. Noor had spent her entire life in captivity, and the scars, both physical and emotional, ran deep. Even though the chains were gone, the fear still lingered in her eyes. She flinched at sudden movements and hesitated before taking a step, as if she expected pain to follow. Adam knew this journey would take time. On the first morning after her rescue, Adam approached Noor slowly, carrying a bucket of fresh water. He crouched a few feet away and placed it on the ground, waiting. The horse sniffed the air but didn't move. Her distrust was strong, and Adam didn't blame her. He spoke softly. It's okay, girl. You're safe now. She watched him with weary eyes, her ears flicking uncertainly. Adam didn't force her. Instead, he backed away and let her decide. A few moments later, Noor hesitantly stepped forward and took a sip. It was a small victory, but to Adam, it meant everything. Over the next few days, Adam focused on Noor's physical recovery. He started by offering her small meals throughout the day, fresh hay, apples, and grains. At first, she ate cautiously, unsure if the food was truly hers. But with each passing day, her appetite grew. Her ribs, once visible beneath her dull coat, slowly began to fade as her body regained strength. Walking was the next challenge. Noor's legs were weak from years of standing in chains. At first, she struggled to take even a few steps without stumbling. Adam walked beside her, guiding her gently. He never rushed her, never forced her beyond her limit. Each day, they walked a little farther, first to the edge of the field, then to the riverbank where she could feel the cool water on her hooves. Sometimes Noor would stop and refuse to move. Adam never pulled or pushed. He simply waited until she was ready. "Take your time, Noor," he would say, patting her neck. "There's no hurry. You're learning how to live again." And she was. While Noor's body grew stronger, her heart still carried fear. She had never known kindness before, and every touch made her tense. Adam understood. He spent hours simply sitting near her, letting her see that he meant no harm. One evening, as the sun painted the sky in hues of gold and pink, Adam sat on the grass beside Noor. He didn't reach for her, didn't try to force closeness. He just sat, humming a quiet tune. Then, something remarkable happened. Noor took a slow step toward him. Adam held his breath, afraid to move. She lowered her head slightly and sniffed his arm. It was the first time she had willingly reached out to him. A lump formed in Adam's throat as he whispered, "That's it, girl. You're safe." From that moment on, something changed between them. Noor began to trust, not fully, not completely, but enough to let Adam brush her coat without flinching, enough to follow him willingly instead of out of obligation. Weeks passed, and Noor's transformation was undeniable. Her coat gleamed under the sunlight, her muscles grew stronger, and the light in her eyes, once dim with hopelessness, began to shine. Then came the day Adam had been waiting for. They stood in the open field, the wind carrying the scent of fresh grass. Adam held Noor's rope loosely in his hands, then slowly unhooked it. He stepped back and watched. For a moment, Noor hesitated. She looked at Adam, then at the vast space ahead. She had never known freedom before. Would she dare to take it? Then, in a burst of courage, she took off. She ran, not out of fear, but out of joy. Her hooves pounded against the earth. Her mane flew wildly in the wind. She galloped across the field as if she had been waiting for this moment her entire life. Adam laughed, his heart swelling with pride. "That's it, Noor. Run free." The villagers who had once pitied her now stood in awe. They had never seen her move like this, never imagined she could recover. But here she was, proving them all wrong. As Noor ran, the chains that had once bound her were nothing more than a memory. She was no longer a prisoner, she was free. And it was all because someone had believed in her. The morning sun stretched across the horizon, bathing the valley in golden light. A gentle breeze rustled through the tall grass, carrying with it the scent of wildflowers and fresh earth. Birds sang in the distance, as if celebrating the new day. But in the heart of the village, something extraordinary was about to happen, something no one had expected. In the open field just beyond the village, Adam stood beside Noor, the horse he had rescued and nurtured back to health. It had been weeks since he freed her from the chains that had bound her for years. When he had first brought her here, she had been weak, afraid, and unsure of her place in the world. But today was different. Noor's coat, once dull and matted, now gleamed in the morning sunlight. Her body, once frail, had grown strong with careful nourishment and daily walks. But there was one thing she had yet to do, something Adam had been patiently waiting for. She had yet to run, not just a few hesitant steps, not the slow, careful walks they had taken together, but a real gallop, a run that would truly set her free. The villagers, curious about Noor's progress, had gathered near the field. They had watched her journey from the beginning, some doubtful that she would ever recover. Others had been moved by Adam's patience and dedication. Now they stood in silence, waiting to see what would happen next. Adam gently stroked Noor's neck. "Are you ready, girl?" he whispered. Noor flicked her ears, her muscles tensing slightly. Her eyes, once filled with fear and uncertainty, now held something new. Curiosity. A spark of something deep within her, something she had never known before. Adam smiled and took a step back. He unhooked the rope that had guided her all these weeks, letting it fall to the ground. Noor was free. For a moment she didn't move. She stood still, looking around as if unsure what to do with this newfound freedom. The villagers exchanged glances. Was she still too afraid? Had captivity robbed her of the instinct to run? Then it happened. Noor lowered her head slightly, nostrils flaring as she took in the open field before her. Her ears pricked forward. Something inside her shifted, an ancient, untamed instinct awakening. And then, in one powerful motion, she took off. Her hooves struck the earth with a force that sent dust flying into the air. The ground trembled beneath her as she galloped across the field, faster than anyone had imagined she could. Her muscles rippled beneath her gleaming coat, her mane and tail streaming behind her like a banner of victory. The villagers gasped in amazement. The horse they had once pitied, the one they had thought would never recover, was running, truly running. Not out of fear, not because she was being forced, but because she wanted to. Adam watched, his heart swelling with pride and joy. He had dreamed of this moment, but seeing it with his own eyes was more beautiful than he could have ever imagined. Noor's gallop turned into a joyous sprint. She kicked up her heels, bucking playfully before continuing her run. She was no longer the broken, forgotten creature she had once been. She was free. As she raced across the field, the villagers erupted into applause. Some wiped away tears, overcome with emotion. They had witnessed something more than just a horse running. They had seen a soul reclaim its freedom. Finally, after what felt like forever, Noor slowed to a graceful stop. She stood tall, her chest rising and falling with deep, satisfied breaths. She turned her head back toward Adam, her dark eyes filled with something new. Trust. Adam walked toward her, reaching out his hand. Noor stepped forward without hesitation, pressing her muzzle gently against his palm. The villagers cheered again, some approaching to get a closer look. They no longer saw a weak, broken animal. They saw a miracle. From that day on, Noor's story spread throughout the village and beyond. She became a symbol of hope, of resilience, of the power of kindness. And though she had been given a second chance at life, it was clear. Noor had given something just as valuable in return. She had shown everyone that no matter how broken a soul may seem, with patience, love, and freedom, it could learn to run again. The story of Noor's transformation spread like wildfire. It started within the village, whispered among neighbors, then carried by travelers to distant lands. People spoke of the once broken horse who had spent years in chains, forgotten and neglected, only to rise again, strong, free, and full of life. At first, many found it hard to believe. Could a horse that had known nothing but captivity truly find the will to run again? Could an animal that had been mistreated for so long ever learn to trust a human? But those who had seen it with their own eyes knew the truth. They had witnessed Noor's first free gallop, had seen the way she had reclaimed her spirit, and they could not keep such a story to themselves. Travelers who passed through the village often stopped to see her, hoping to catch a glimpse of the horse whose story had touched so many hearts. Some brought gifts, fresh apples, handcrafted blankets, even small tokens of gratitude for Adam, the man who had given Noor a second chance. But the story didn't just inspire admiration, it ignited change. Noor's story became a lesson in compassion, a reminder that no creature, human or animal, was ever too broken to be saved. Villagers who had once ignored suffering now looked at the world differently. They began to care more for the animals in their own homes, treating their horses, cattle, and even stray dogs with greater kindness. One day, a young boy approached Adam, his eyes filled with curiosity. "Is it true?" he asked. "Did Noor really come back to life?" Adam smiled, looking over at Noor, who stood in the distance, grazing peacefully in the sunlight. "She was never gone," he said gently. "She was just waiting for someone to believe in her." The boy thought for a moment, then nodded. The next morning, he was seen feeding a stray puppy near his home. It was small changes like this that made Adam realize Noor's story had done something far greater than he had ever imagined. It wasn't just about one horse's journey to freedom. It was about the power of love, patience, and second chances. As time passed, Noor's story traveled beyond the village, reaching the ears of kind-hearted strangers in distant places. Some were inspired to rescue mistreated animals of their own. Others were moved to help those in need, offering kindness where they had once turned a blind eye. One day, a wealthy landowner arrived, having heard of Noor's incredible transformation. He was deeply touched by her story and offered Adam a large sum of money for her, but Adam only smiled and shook his head. "Noor's freedom isn't mine to sell," he said. "She belongs to no one but herself." The landowner, moved by Adam's words, left without the horse but with a newfound respect for the bond between man and animal. Seasons changed, and Noor continued to thrive, running freely through the fields, her spirit unbreakable. She had once been a symbol of suffering, a creature who had known nothing but chains. But now she was a beacon of hope, proving to the world that even the broken could heal, that even those who had been lost could find their way again. And though Adam had been the one to rescue her, he often felt that Noor had given him just as much in return. She had taught him patience, resilience, and the true meaning of freedom. One evening, as Adam sat beneath the vast sky, watching Noor gallop against the setting sun, he smiled to himself. Noor's story had become more than just a tale of rescue. It had become a legacy. And in the hearts of all who heard it, a seed of kindness had been planted, proving that no matter how dark the past, there was always a chance for a brighter, freer future.